a while, we considered it unlikely that the World Champs would even take place, but here we are, the day prior to the men's elite road race, where we will soon have a new world champion crowned in Imola. Today, I will be previewing the road race. However, I have a special guest with me. Guillaume, aka Blackwar, is alongside me today.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, sir. So, for those of the listeners that don't know who you are, tell us a bit about yourself.
So my name is Blackwar or Guillaume. I'm French. I do pro cycling manager content on YouTube, and I have recently started a podcast as well because it seems like it's a trend called Wheel Soccer. And I've uploaded the first episode on my channel on YouTube after the Tour de France. But today it's all about the Timmsoski podcast.
Brilliant stuff. All right, so I think the way we're going to do this is just look through team by team and look at who we think could be challenging from each team and just evaluate their chances. And then at the end, we can make a prediction and see how close we can get to actually guessing what will happen, which I know I haven't been very good at in the past.
Neither have I.
We'll see how that goes. Anyway, let's kick things off with Denmark then. And Denmark come to the race really with an out-and-out leader, I would say, in Jakob Fuglsang. We have Michael Valgren in the team as well, potentially, but really I think they'll be riding for Fuglsang. And yeah, I think one of the main favourites for the race. Pretty dominant so far this year. Didn't quite show his best form at Tirreno a few weeks ago. Does that worry you at all?
I mean, we all know Fuglsang is very good when it comes to one-day races. He's won Liège-Bastogne-Liège last year. I'm pretty sure he's won Lombardia at the restart. Granted, it was a weakened Lombardia with not the best start list, but he always performs well on one-day races. He's never won the World Championships. Denmark come into the race as the title holders with Mats Pedersen last year. I feel like the team around him might be a bit weak, but we've seen with Pete Sagan that having a team isn't necessarily the reason as to why you're going to win. He is definitely one of the big names. He might be watched by a lot of riders, which could prevent him from winning, but he definitely, I feel like, has the legs to grab the rainbow jersey in Imola.
Yeah, it really suits him down to a T as well. I think the parkour is just
It does.
short, punchy climbs. Suits him absolutely perfectly. Very similar to LBL, I guess, which of course he won last year.
Speaking of the parkour, the Sunday road race will have 258 kilometers, 9 laps around the circuit of Imola. For comparison, the women who raced on Saturday had 5 laps of the same circuit. It is a challenging circuit with 2 main climbs. The first one being the climb of Mazzolano, 2.2 kilometers at an average gradient of 6.6%, and the second one, the Cima Galisterna, 2.3 kilometers, so just a short tad longer, and 7% average gradient. For, as I said, 9 laps, and a downhill finish, the final 10 kilometers of the circuit being a false flat downhill towards Imola.
Moving on, we have Team Belgium, and I think they probably have the strongest team for the race, as they seem to most years. I think last year in Yorkshire, they potentially had one of the strongest teams as well. However, I think coming in this year, they have more of an out-and-out leader than they have had recently. They always have a strong team, but this year, of course, Wout van Aert heads Belgium's squad, but they also have Greg van Avermaet, Ollie Narsson, T.S. Benoot, just to name a few. So I think the strongest team in the race, but Van Aert will be coming off, of course, from his silver medal in the TT. The man really can do it all. What do you think of Belgium's chances this year?
Every year we back Belgium as the strongest team, and they haven't really performed as well as they probably would like since basically Philippe Gilbert's title. Wout van Aert, I don't know what to think about this man. He started the restart in incredible shape in Milano-San Remo, well, in Strade Bianche, then Milano-San Remo. People thought that he would probably lower his shape on the Tour de France. Turns out he was a monster on the Tour de France. And now he gets a silver medal on the time trial. He is probably in the best shape of his life, which is scary to think because I believe he's only 26. Maybe he's going to run out of fitness, potentially feel the legs will be a bit heavy on 258 kilometers after all the work he's done this year. But he is potentially the most adequate candidate to win in Imola. The only thing is that the other riders in the team, the likes of Van Avermaet, Stuyven, if they're here, will they all work for Wout van Aert and not potentially think about their own card? I don't know. I can feel I don't see Van Avermaet working for Van Aert.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, to be honest, to some extent. But I always think it is of some benefit to have a strong team, even if Van Avermaet attacks up the roads in the final, not necessarily working for Van Aert, but it obviously means Van Aert can just sit in the wheels. So having that strong team, I think, is of benefit, even if they aren't really riding for each other. We'll see how they play it. I think, like you said, they have underperformed in the World Champs road race in recent times since Phil Gilbert, but certainly they have a lot of chances this Sunday.
They do. They've got multiple riders able to get the win.
Okay, so next up, let's take a look at Slovenia. And I think this is potentially the most intriguing team to look at, looking on paper at least, because we have the one and the two of course, the Tour de France, Tadej Pogačar and Primož Roglič. And just a week after that race, after Roglič lost it in such brutal fashion to Pogačar, they team up on the same team on, I think, parcours that suit both riders. So how do you see this one playing out for Slovenia?
They've got an interesting team around obviously Pogačar and Roglič with the likes of Rajkovic, Luka Mezgec, who could be a dark horse if it comes to a bunch sprint. But we saw Tadej and Primož Roglič working together somewhat on the Tour de France. So I don't think they'll be too lost when it comes to Sunday's race. However, I don't know if they will. I mean, if they want to win this, they'll have to get rid of the fast riders, the likes of Van Aert or, for example, Michael Matthews, who we might talked about after. And I don't know if they can do that. However, if they can, I mean, Slovenia would have taken the world of cycling by storm. Like a month ago, there's probably people who barely could put Slovenia on the map, and they've now won the Tour de France, and they could potentially have the world champion tomorrow.
Yeah, no, it is incredible what they've done, especially behind these two riders. And I think Mezgec, like you mentioned, is definitely one to watch. Everyone will be thinking, look out for Pogačar, look out for Roglič. But Mezgec, he also had a good Tour de France. I think he had 2 second places on stages.
He is second place on stage 19 in Champagnol behind Søren Kragh Andersen. And I think he's second in Lyon behind Søren Kragh Andersen.
You're exactly right.
It's a shame that Søren isn't here for Denmark.
Otherwise, Mezgec would be favourite. But anyway, yeah, I think Mezgec, he is obviously a very good sprinter, but he can get over the climbs as well. Maybe too tough for him tomorrow, but we'll see. I think Mezgec is definitely a good shout from yourself. Do you think Roglič and Pogačar are going to be too tired? Because obviously they've ridden the Tour de France, but when you look at Van Aert, he has ridden the Tour de France as a domestique, whereas these guys have been riding GC every day. So I think they may be feeling that slightly more. Do you think that could hamper their chances?
It definitely could. Potentially more Roglič. More so Roglič than Tadej. I mean, like, we're going to talk again about that time trial on the Planche Belleville, but Roglič seemed knackered that day, and Pogačar seemed like it was the first day he was ever racing. Like, he was so full of energy, and I think if he's managed to keep that level of energy, Tadej won't feel the fatigue. Primož potentially, but I would genuinely keep an eye for Luka Mezgec. I feel like he's the card that Slovenia isn't talking about because they've got those 2 big names and people are forgetting about Mezgec.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how Mezgec can get on over the climbs. And if he is there in the final, he'll certainly be one of the favourites to take it in that sprint, I think. All right, so moving on to France, we have, of course, Julian Alaphilippe as really their leader. Question marks over his form, I would suggest, but we also have riders like Valentin Madouas. We have Guillaume Martin, probably will be riding for Alaphilippe, but again, Alaphilippe didn't look at his best, particularly in the final few weeks of the Tour. Of course, he took the stage into Nice early on, but from then on, he didn't quite look to his 2019 form. What do you think of Alaphilippe and Team France's chances?
It's a difficult one because Julien is, as you said, well, not out of form or out of fitness, but he didn't look as good as he used to in the previous season. But you always have to be scared of someone like Julien. No matter how good he is or what shape he's in, this man can win. He knows how to win. He finished second in San Remo, just behind Wout van Aert, I think. And on a parcours such as this one, he can genuinely do well. He's gonna have a good team around. Valentin Madouas, who looked in very decent shape at the end of the Tour de France. Guillaume Martin, who narrowly missed out on the top 10, but I think he's even going to ride the Vuelta, so I'm guessing he must be confident in well, his legs. Nance Peters, who won a stage on the Tour. Kenny Elisond, who looked ridiculously good for Richie Port and is a big part as to why Richie got third on the Tour. But can Julien do it on his own? No. With the team, yes. He's going to need to be a bit smarter than he's been on the Tour de France because a lot of the stuff he did, no one could really understand. And that's not something you can forgive on a race as competitive as the World Championships.
Certainly is. And I think everyone from Team France is coming from the Tour apart from Julien Bernard, who has ridden Tirreno Adriatico, of course, for Trek. So, yeah, I think they'll be riding for Alaphilippe, but I think it'll all be down to him and what kind of day he's on. But those climbs, I think they're just over 2K, aren't they? They suit Alaphilippe perfectly, I would say, on his day. So certainly can't count him out despite his recent form. Okay, so moving on to Italy now. Of course, the winners of the TT with Pippo Ganna putting in an unreal performance on Friday. He won't be in the team, but we have a interesting team for Italy with the likes of the Shark, Vincenzo Nibali, but also Diego Ulissi. We have Andrea Baggioli. A really quite strong team, I would say, for Italy. Who do you think is their leader, and do you think they stand a chance?
It's an odd one as well. They don't have that triple A leader. For example, we look at Belgium, we see Van Aert. We look at Denmark, we see Fulsang. Italy this year, there's no real name that stands out. Obviously, you've got Vincenzo Nibali, as you mentioned, but I don't feel like this parcours really suits him. Potentially, he probably would have liked to have the actual parcours, which would have taken place in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Now, there's a few riders in that team that are able to both be over the climbs and sprint well. Diego Ulissi, you mentioned him. Andre Bergioli, even Alberto Bettiol, the winner of the Ronde van Vlaanderen. I think Ulissi is in very good shape. I was looking at his recent fitness before making this. He's won the Tour de Luxembourg. He finished third in the Settimana Coppi Bartali and fifth of the Tour de Pologne. And Bergioli got second in Settimana Coppi. Both are able to go over climbs. Both are able to sprint. And every year, when you look at the top 10 of the World Championships, you often have that rider who you didn't expect to see in the top 10. You're like, oh, he top 10 the race. I don't think they've got what it takes to win, although they'll have the support, well, the national support because the race is in Italy. But they are definitely ones to watch. I think it's one of the first seasons where Italy doesn't come into the race as a main favorite, and it could very well benefit them. Strange not to see Matteo Trentin in that team. I was quite surprised when I watched the start list, not to see the rider from CCC.
I was going to mention Trentin because it would have been difficult for him to get over these climbs, but had he done it, I think he'd have stood a great chance. Of course, was seconds in last year's World Championships where he was beaten by Pedersen. But I think of Italy's team, Ulissi probably will be the best finisher, but Baggioli in particular, I mean, I think he's 21 and he is just an unreal talent, certainly one to watch. Again, a very good puncher, so the parcours really do suit him, I feel.
No, it really does. It really does. He could be the rider that does something you didn't really expect because no one really watches him. And he could potentially even start an attack in the final 10 to 15 kilometers or go from like, I don't know, 3-4 laps to go with some other riders and try to go for the long run. See what happens. If he trusts his leg, then I think Bergioli could be in for a shout at the top 10.
Definitely. Maybe even playing the Mark Hershey role at the Tour where On stage 2, Hershey kind of attacked away with the big names, Yates and Alaphilippe, and everyone kind of thought, who's this guy? And then
Yeah,
obviously we know who he is now. Maybe Baggioli could be that guy at
he
the
could.
World Championships.
And on home soil as well, he'll be completely over the moon with the support.
Indeed, yeah. So let's move on and look at the Netherlands. And I think the main talking point is a rider who's not on the start list. Of course, Mathieu van der Poel won't be racing for the Netherlands. They instead have the likes of Tom Dumoulin. They have Pascal Enkhorn, Dylan van Baarle. But I think van der Poel is the main talking point. Like I said, he said the course was too difficult for him. What do you think about that decision?
I mean, it's a big shame for the Netherlands. I don't feel like the course was too hard for him, if I'm gonna be honest. I feel like if he sets his mind to something, he probably could have achieved it. Like, he's won the Amstel. I believe that the Amstel is tougher on paper than this parkour. Now, whether Mathieu van der Poel is in good shape or not, I don't know. He was very impressive on the Netherlands Championships, but that was already a month ago. I don't know. I really don't know what to think about that decision. Because he leaves a Netherlands team stranded of a leader, and sure they've got Dumoulin, but if I'm being honest, the only rider in that team that I could see potentially top 10ing the race would be a Dylan van Baarle, because you need to have some sort of sprinting abilities, and I don't see Dumoulin having that. Pascal Enkhorn, but I don't think he'll be able to go over the climbs. Yeah, it's an odd team for the Netherlands, and I don't see them being there when it matters tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm with you. It is a funny one from Van der Poel. Clearly, just didn't quite have his heart set on the course, I guess, because, like you said, Amstel Gold Race, which he won, we've seen him go well over a similar parkour, to be fair. So I think it was a surprise to everyone when he said he wouldn't be racing it. I would say Pascal Enkhorn, for me, I think he could surprise some people tomorrow. I don't think Dumoulin really is going to be contending for the win tomorrow. I know he's gone well at the World Champs before over a long course, but I think Enkhorn could be given more of a free roll, and we could see him close to the top. Not contending for the win, but I think we could see him with a decent result tomorrow.
What I would like to say though about Van der Poel, and it's not something that we see often, but for once, I mean, we might understand his decision or not, but at least he was honest enough to say that he didn't want to come, compared to some other riders who would go there because they were told by the country to go, and they wouldn't perform because they didn't have the legs. At least he's leaving someone not maybe worthy of his place, but at least who feels like he can do something on that race.
Yeah, definitely. Couldn't agree more there. So let's move on and look at Colombia. So Colombia come into the race. They have a few riders I think you could consider their leader. We have Rigoberto Urán, Miguel Angel Lopez, who of course won a stage at the Tour. We have Dani Martinez. Same goes for him, winning a stage at the Tour. Also Sergio Higuita, who crashed out of the Tour after Bob Jungels took him out. But I'd say a lot of good riders here for Colombia that you could potentially see doing well on these parkours.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And that this team from Colombia is looking so tasty. There's Martinez, Higuita, even Sergio Henao. He hasn't done a lot of things in the past or in the recent years, but I'm pretty sure he's a podium finisher on La Flèche Wallonne, if I'm correct. Um,
You are.
I mean, Higuita, Martinez, and Lopez, and I mean, yeah, even Miguel Angel. This team is incredible. It's incredible, and to think that technically, instead of Cristian Munoz, you would have Nairo Quintana. This team, on paper, looks so impressive. It's a very mountainy axed team. We'll say that, but then again, it's Colombia. Um, but someone like Dan Martinez could honestly do a lot of things in Sunday's race. He has the pace to outsprint a few riders. The same goes for Higuita. He is one of the best climbers. Well, he was one of the best climbers since the restart. He's won the Dauphiné. He was good on the Tour de France, winning that stage, I believe, at the Puy-Marie, beating Schachmann and Kemna. No, it's a team. It's a really interesting team, and I would not be surprised if we were to see a Colombian rider on the podium of the World Champs.
It's a big statement. Big statement. I think they do have a strong team, but I would be looking out for Danny Martinez. Of all those guys, Higuita, I think, is a very good sprinter for a small rider, but I have question marks over what type of form he'll be in. He didn't look fantastic at the Tour, at least quite as good as I think some people hoped he would. But Dan Martinez, he crashed out of the GC battle early, but he looked so impressive that stage he won ahead of Lenny Kemna. I think Dan Martinez, he has a good kick as well. It's quite punchy. I think we could see Martinez go well.
Yeah, Colombia is definitely one to watch.
Couldn't agree more. Also good to see Harold Tiada here after a good showing at the Tour. He's really shot up in prominence this year. I think it'll be a very strong domestique for the team. We could see him there quite late on.
Yeah, I mean that's the YouTube cycling experience he's got there.
Exactly, the legend. All right, so let's move on. Let's look at Germany, and I think looking at this German squad, it's all about Maxi Schachmann, the bobblehead of the peloton.
It really is.
I think he has a good chance. Parkour will suit him well. He came top 3 in Liège-Bastogne-Liège a year ago, which was won by Fuglsang. So if we're considering Fuglsang a favourite, I think Schachmann has to be considered.
Oh, definitely. Schachmann is one of the riders. I mean, I would have him in the same category as an Alaphilippe. You might not know what their form is, but you always have to worry about them on that kind of race. And Schachmann will have the entire team dedicated to him. The team isn't as strong as the French team, for example, for Alaphilippe, but he looked to be in a very good condition on the Tour de France. I mean, he nearly won on the Puy-Marie when he got beaten by Dan Martinez. I think the day before he top 10 the stage as well. He is in good shape, and he's got the ability to go over hills. He can sprint. So Schachmann is definitely someone that people will be watching out for. One rider I'm interested to see his form though is John Degenkolb, because he was on the start list of the Tour de France. I think he withdrew on stage 1, or wait, was it stage 2 he withdrew on? When he used
I think it was stage 1. He was over the time limit.
Oh, yeah, he brought back Caleb Ewan, but then he was out of the delays in Nice. So I don't know how that affected his fitness and form, but we always saw John Degenkolb as a sprinter able to go over hills. They might be a bit too tough for him, but if he's in the final mix with like 10k to go, I'm not so sure Germany will go for Schachmann.
Oh, couldn't agree more. The question is if he can get there. And like you say, he hasn't had the Tour de France, which could be detrimental or it could be of big benefit to Degenkolb, but you don't know. He's obviously coming in a bit fresher, but does he have the fitness in the legs? That's the question. We haven't quite seen the fitness or the results, I would say, that we're used to from him since his win. I think it was the 2018 Tour where he won in Roubaix.
Yeah.
Was it 2018?
It was in 2018.
It's certainly a name to look out for. Whilst everyone could be looking at Schachmann for Germany, I think Degenkolb could maybe go under the radar a bit.
And I was just checking, so he did go on the Tour de Luxembourg following his out of the delays on the Tour, and he did win a stage ahead of a little competition. Eduard Grootsu, who's there for Romania, I think, on the race, and Peter van Speebroek. But he can win. He's won recently, less than a week ago. So he might try to. I mean, maybe he's got the legs. Maybe not being on the Tour de France helped him go really under the radar.
It's an interesting one. I didn't really think about him much, I must say, when I looked at their team. I just thought it's all about Schachmann, but Big John, we'll see what he can do. All right, so the penultimate 8-man team at the race is Team Spain, and we have, I would say, almost similar to Colombia's team in the sense that we have a lot of strong riders, a lot of good climbers. We have Alejandro Valverde, Enric Mas, Mikel Landa, 2 riders that top 5 the Tour de France right there. The only team to do that other than Slovenia, of course. We have also Luis Leon Sanchez, David de la Cruz, Pello Bilbao. Very strong team for Spain. What do you make of their chances?
I mean, you you cannot cross someone like Valverde off the favorites list because it's Alejandro Valverde. He's a former world champion. Although his fitness wasn't really there towards the end of the Tour de France, I think he could have gone that top 10 if he wanted to, because his time trial on La Planche de Belleville was shocking. He finished behind Miguel Angel Lopez, and that's saying much. But Valverde has decent pace. Marc Soler is not always the smartest when it comes to tactics, but when he's got the legs, he's decent. Luis Leon Sanchez, a rider with a lot of experience. Enric Mas, who surprised a lot of riders and a lot of viewers actually at the Tour de France. I didn't really expect him to top 5 the Tour. Mikel Landa, who has been freed of his shackles at Sky. And then you've got Herrera de la Cruz, Pello Bilbao, who could see this parkour suit him. He goes over the hills quite well. I'd say he's probably the fastest guy in the team if it comes to a sprint. But Spain always have that team of underdogs on this kind of parkours. You don't really know what they're gonna do, but you know that the entire team is able to basically challenge for the win if it isn't maybe for Jesus Herrera. It's an interesting team. I don't see them winning, but you never know. Valverde can surprise me. He's 40 years old and he's still doing this.
He certainly is. I think what I will say about Spain is that they are the only team where if you said any of their riders finish in the top 20, I could believe you, because
Yep.
even you say Harada, even him, I think the park will suit him. He's a decent climber, certainly over the slightly shorter climbs. So yeah, I think watch out for everyone in Spain. No real favourite here. Depends if Valverde is on his form of 2 years ago. Not quite sure what to make of his Tour de France because, like you say, he did fall away in that time trial, but he did, I guess, help them get their goal of the team classification. So
Yeah.
I guess it was objective met for them at the Tour. But it's an interesting one because they have so many strong riders.
To be fair, the team classification might be their objective as well on the World Championships. I think that squad, like it just is. It's just a Spanish thing, but as I said, it's a really strong team. Everyone could finish in the top 20. Yeah, up the Spain.
And do you think how beneficial do you think it is to have a strong team like this? Because obviously you can go for Germany, who have Schachmann, maybe a stronger contender in Schachmann than any of the Spanish riders. But when you look at Spain's squad, it's so strong. How beneficial do you think it is at a race like the World Championships?
I feel like if you've got a strong team without a strong leader, the only way you can try to impose your rhythm on the race is to go in every breakaway, potentially pace very heavily to destroy the teammates of Germany. Like if you see, I don't know, with 80 kilometers to go, and in one of the climbs you've got Mikel Landa, Marc Soler, Enric Mas, and David de la Cruz pacing, I don't think someone like Jonas Koch or Nico Denz will be able to stay in the peloton. And if they can isolate someone like Schachmann or someone like Fulsong, Spain potentially has a chance if they've got the numbers. I mean, why not? If there's a 20-man group, there's 6 Spanish riders. Just send, I don't know, 2 guys at the front. It'll make the peloton work, lose teammates, and then you can maybe counterattack again. I don't know. It's gonna be tactics. On paper, they don't have the strongest riders, but they've got the strongest. Well, they've got the most high-level team without a high-level leader.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean.
Okay, so final team with 8 riders we'll take a look at in full is Australia, and they are led by Michael Matthews. We have some other good riders in Simon Clark and Richie Porte, of course, coming off his podium, finally getting that podium at the Tour. But I think they will be led by Michael Matthews, third at Milan-San Remo this year, also the winner of the Britannia Classic post-lockdown. So I think that race is similar in parcours, perhaps slightly easier in terms of climbs. But Michael Matthews, what do you make of his chances?
I'm gonna go with a bold prediction. If it's a mass sprint, well, I mean, if it's a bunch sprint of 50 riders, Michael Matthews wins this. 100. He is in an incredible shape. I think for him, not having done the Tour de France was a good thing because I don't see how he would have fit in that Sunweb team at the Tour de France because of the likes of Zoran Kraf Andersen and Mark Hershey. They probably would have rode a bit differently. But he was on the Tirreno. He was really impressive on some of the stages. I think there's one stage he was in the breakaway. And he did very well on the mountain. Well, it was a mountainy parkour, and he did very well. And I'm convinced he's going to be able to go over the hills, like without a doubt. He's got Richie Porte with him, who just podiumed the Tour de France. He's still going to be in the euphoria of the moment. You've got Simon Clark, who can always do some job when it comes to that kind of parkour. Yeah, no, Michael Matthews is definitely someone that could leave Imola in the rainbow jersey.
I agree. I really like Matthews' chances. He, like you say, didn't ride the Tour, but he has shown some great form in the recent weeks. So I think Matthews definitely a rider to look out for. I would also mention Simon Clark, and he has shown some good form in similar races. Of course, he came second in the Amstel Gold Race last year, which is over 250k like this one, and very hilly as well. So Simon Clark, I think, could be pretty key in Australia and Michael Matthews' chances because he can help out Matthews or even go for himself if Matthews does end up getting dropped.
Yeah, fully. And he's got the speed. He's got the pace. If it's
a
4 or 5-man group, Simon Clark is definitely someone you don't want to cross off your list for the win.
Couldn't agree more. Do you think Richie Porte is a pure domestique for this race?
Yeah. I don't. I mean, I'd love, honestly, if Richie Porte gets the rainbow jersey. It's 2020 is mental, even more mental than I thought it would be. I cannot see him win. I think he is solely there as a teammate. We know he's a great teammate. He's shown that for years at Sky. I think he's been the leader for 2 seasons with Trek, but for this race and this race only, he might become a great domestique.
Yeah, I'm with you. And even if he does get over the climbs, I think he'd have to be solo because I don't think he'd have it in a sprint. So those are the 10 teams with 8 riders in the race. I think now we're going to take a look at some of the teams with fewer riders, but with, I think, contenders as well. So let's kick things off with Great Britain, and Tom Pidcock, leading Great Britain, announced this week that he will be joining the Ineos Grenadiers next season for his first season in the World Tour. A very young rider still, but he was absolutely dominant at the Baby Giro, I think, last week. 3 stage wins and the GC there. I think the parkour suit him as well, and I don't think he's going to be scared racing against these big guys compared to some of the competition he's been up against more recently. What do you think of Pidcock? Do you think he has a chance?
I mean, first of all, I'm really happy to see him on this parkour. I really am. It's a rider that I've seen for quite a few years in like the under 23 ranks, I guess, or under 21, and also I think in cyclocross, I believe. But he's always been there when it comes to racing against the big names. He attempted to, I think it was in one of the breakaways in the European Championships this year in Plouay. He wasn't in the mix for the final sprint, but he showed some legs, and as you had mentioned with Michael Matthews, the parkour is quite similar to the one in Imola. But I'm really glad to see Pidcock here. If he's going to win, I honestly wouldn't say it, because it's his first real race. Well, it's his first World Championships with the big riders. Great Britain doesn't have that strong of a team. I mean, they've got James Knox and Hugh Carthy, Luke Rowe potentially. But I'm pretty certain we'll see Thomas Pidcock try something to dynamite the race.
I agree, and you mentioned the European Championships. He tried an attack, I think, in the final 5k. He definitely had the legs. It's just the course, I don't think was quite hard enough because we had Nizzolo, Demar, Ackerman even there in the final. But he was there trying in the end, and I think it's going to be of benefit to him that there's slightly more climbing in the World Champs. So I think Pidcock definitely has a chance. I think we should be looking out for him.
100%. We're gonna stay in the Ineos Grenadiers team and go to Poland. Poland, led by former world champion Michał Kwiatkowski. He's left the Tour de France with his first ever Grand Tour win, which is still shocking for someone of his talent. He's won races like Milan-San Remo, he's won the Amstel, he's won San Sebastian. He knows how to win one-day races. We said the same about Fuglsang earlier. He's going to have an entire team dedicated to him. Is this team going to be there in the final 20, 30 kilometers? No disrespect to Poland, but I don't think so. But Michał can win on his own. He is potentially one of the most polyvalent riders there is. And again, you might not really expect him when you think about the start list first, but Michał has what it takes, in my opinion, to grab a second rainbow jersey in his career.
He certainly does, and the form he showed at the Tour, even when Bernal was still in GC contention, he, I think, probably looked like Ineos' strongest domestique. He looks really, really good, and he shows on the stage he won at the Tour alongside Carapaz that he can get over the larger climbs, which he doesn't even have to do this time around. He's won races like Milano-San Remo as well. We know his qualities, and with the form he's shown, I certainly think you're right, he has a great chance of winning his second rainbow jersey. Okay, so moving on, let's go to a rider who exploded onto the scene at the Tour de France, and the man is called Mark Hershey. He came so close to winning on a few occasions, particularly with that 90-kilometer long solo ride where he was heartbroken really by Pogačar and Roglic beating him in the sprint on the line. I think a lot of people will be rooting for Mark Hershey, and the parcours really do suit him again. Very punchy rider. He shows on stage 2 on Col d'Ez that he is a very good climber, can live with the best punchers in the world. What do you think of Hershey? Do you think he stands a chance?
Well, I mean, Mark Hershey is my favorite to win. I think, as you said, he's going to be... a lot of people are going to root for him. He's become one of the favorite riders for many, mainly because of that 90-kilometer solo that, well, devastating when you saw Pogačar and Roglic just edging past him on the line. But he came close to win in Nice, finishing second behind Julien. He got his win in Saran on stage 12. We mustn't forget, he's an under-23 world champion. He podiumed last year's San Sebastian, I believe. He was second of the European Championships as well on the under-23. He definitely has the legs. It's a parkour that suits him. He's going to have a team dedicated with him to the likes with the likes of Gasparotto and mainly Mikel Albazini. It's the final race in Albazini's career, because after that he's going to become the Swiss manager, and I feel like he's going to give all he has to see a Swiss rider in the rainbow stripes for next season. And what a year would be for Mark Hershey. Like, he broke out onto the scene with this Tour de France, and he would just it would be amazing to see him in the rainbow, and he is my pick to win.
It would be incredible. It would be very pleasing for many people, I think. Like you say, when he was pipped to the line by Roglic, a lot of people felt so bad for him that they now kind of root for him as one of their favourite riders.
We're going to move to the United States with another rider that performed very well on the Tour de France. Maybe not as much of a breakout as someone like Mark Hershey, but we've got Sepp Kuss. Sepp Kuss, who worked as a domestique for Primož Roglic. We all know what happened to Primož, but Sepp Kuss was probably one of the strongest riders there was on this Tour de France. I mean, his stage on the Col de la Loze was mental. He came back on everyone. He dropped everyone. He nearly dropped Roglic. He's in an incredible shape. The only issue I can see with him and basically the United States team, they've got 4 climbers in Lawson Craddock, Sepp Kuss, Brandon McNulty, and Nielsen Paulus. None of them are able to sprint. And I do not see the World Championship finishing with a solo rider genuinely on his own.
Yeah, agree. With that, I think it's just over 10k after the final climb, kind of downhill and flat into the finish. It is going to be maybe difficult for someone to go solo. from that far out. I think they'll have to go solo from that climb if they're going to go solo to the line. But Sepkus, definitely USA's best chance. Can he? He finally gets a leadership role after really working for Roglic for the entirety of the tour. So yeah, we could well see him there in the final for sure. So another rider I want to give mention to is Mike Woods, and he injured himself at Paris-Nice. I think it was a pretty serious injury, a broken femur, if I'm not mistaken. And he's come back post-lockdown, and he seems to be in great shape. He won a stage at Tirreno with an attack on that super steep climb. Of course, the Poggio Morella with massive percentages, well over 10%. And we do have sections well over 10% in this Imola course. So Woods has shown it very recently on similar parkour. He doesn't have the strongest team alongside him, but he has 2 years ago performed very well at the World Championships. He can last the distance in a race over 250k because, of course, he lost in that sprint to Valverde in 2018. So now 33 years old, could Mike Woods be Canada's first winner of the road race?
Could he be a winner? Yes. Is he going to win? That's a different question. He broke out on the scene quite late. I think he started. When did he join Cannondale? Was it 26? Something like that. Because he didn't have the most usual career in parkour, I guess. But he definitely now has his place in the World Tour. He's going to join Israel Startup Nation next season. So he's got the boost of having a new contract, I guess, or trying to show his talent to maybe prove to Israel that they did well to pick him. I was listening to Alexander Cataford when he finished the time trial in Imola, and he said that they know they're not the strongest team, but they are going to give everything they have to Michael Woods. Everyone is 155% dedicated to Michael Woods. He did finish second of the World Championships behind Valverde. He's got the sprint, he's got the experience, he's got the legs, as you've said on Tirreno, where he performed quite well. He could be one to watch. If it's a little bunch of riders like 7-8, he could be a one to watch.
So we do have a number of other contenders in the likes of Richard Carapaz for Ecuador, Alexei Lutsenko, maybe even Ruben Guerrero. Do you think any of those guys stand a chance? I mean, the parkours, I guess, suit most of them.
Carapaz, he's got the legs. He showed that on like the final week of the Tour de France, where he was completely I mean, he was very good. Well, he was very good. Came close to winning twice, and that's not including the one with Timmsoski, because I kind of count it as a win as well for Carapaz. Now the parkour is maybe not strong, not tough enough for Carapaz. That final 10 kilometers, I feel like it's against him more than anything. However, it is very good for someone like Lutsenko. A very complete rider. He can go over the hills. He's shown it on the Tour de France by winning at the Mont Igual. He's got the speed. He's got 5 riders around him that will only ride for him, and then they'll most likely get dropped very early on. But Lutsenko can fight for it. Carapaz maybe a bit less. And Ruben Guerrero, I don't know if he's going to be... The thing is, if he's leading Portugal, he might have a shot. Will he be leading Portugal knowing that Rui Costa is there? I don't know. But Guerrero can do something.
For sure. So I think we're going to now mention a potential surprise package that really no one's talking about, that we could potentially see go better than everyone is expecting. So who have you got?
I've got Tom Schoens from Latvia.
So what is it about him that's got you picking him?
I mean, he didn't have the greatest of Tour de France. He did finish second on one stage. I think the stage when Nance Peters won in Loudanvielle, where when he was with Zakharin. He performs well on one-day races. He was in the final group, I think, on last year's Classic San Sebastian when Remco won. I'm pretty sure he even was with Remco for quite a while before getting dropped by the Belgian wonder kid. He is always good on Italian turf. He's won the Trevai Varesin. I think he's also podiumed there quite a few times. He's won 3 stages on the Tour of California, which have a similar kind of parkour. Well, maybe not the same length, but the profile was somewhat similar to what we'll see today. Oh, tomorrow, sorry. And as I said with I think it was with Bagioli, I said that every year you've got one rider that's in the top 10 and you don't really know how he ended up here. And you're like, oh, he finished in the top 10. Tom Schoens is the definition of that saying. Like, Tom Schoens could finish 8th and people were like, oh, wow, I didn't expect that.
And I would say in last year's World Champs as well, he was 21st, only less than 2 minutes behind Mads Pedersen, and that was 260k, very similar length. So as well as the parkour, we know he can ride the distance as well.
He really can.
So yeah, I think he's a good pick. I am going to go, though, with Attila Volta of Hungary, the only man riding for Hungary at the race, but just 22 years old. He's shown his form recently by winning the Tour of Hungary, the Queen's Stage as well. I think he's a very good puncher. Just 22 years old. I don't think he's going to be competing for the win, but definitely a fun rider to look out for. He might be there or thereabouts, maybe a top 20. I would think would be a fantastic result for him. Of course, will be difficult without any teammates, so maybe he'll need some luck as well. What do you think about him? Do you think he has a chance for a good result?
He does. As you say, he won the Queen Stage of his national tour, beating some experienced riders, the likes of Yanis Barakovic, who is on that turf, or on that start list, sorry. Quinn Simons, who isn't here for the USA, but potentially could have been an asset for the stripes and stars. I think that's how you say it in the US. But it's going to be very, very tough on his own. He's going to have to micromanage his race. He can't count on anyone. I mean, he could potentially try at one point to have an alliance with like a nation that doesn't have a lot, or maybe, I mean, I don't know how the relations are between Hungary and Slovenia, but Attila Valter could race potentially with Roglic and Pogacar, trying to get some help. But if he pulls something, like you said, top 20, I think it's definitely in the cards for him, in the bag. But to go any higher than top 20, he's going to need a lot of things going in his favor, or just the legs of a century.
He certainly is. And also, any type of puncture or, mechanical,
He's done.
And he's in trouble. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. But I think we could see him go a little bit better than expected. So, you mentioned Quinn Simmons there. He is not on the start list, which was certainly a surprise to me. What do you make of him not being in the team? And also, are there any other kind of omissions that you think is surprising? I know we mentioned Trenton as well, and of course Van der Poel. Is there anyone else as well as Quinn Simmons?
I mean, we had talked about Quinn Simmons off air, which was somewhat weird not to see him here. I haven't been able to find a reason as to why he's not here. So maybe if any one of you listening have a reason, then feel free. I don't necessarily have. I mean, actually, I do. I've just checked the start list. Ireland not going with Dan Martin, and mainly, and that's my main shock, Austria not going with anyone from Bora. And I expected to see, I don't know, a Konrad, Mühlberger, Pöstelberger, Großschartner. They're not here, and I feel like Austria could have had a shout at a top 10 in Sunday's race.
They certainly could have. I think, yeah, a big surprise not to see any of those guys. Maybe Comrades would have been best suited to the parkours. I think Großschartner abandoned the tour with an illness, which is potentially his reason. But yeah, big surprise to not see any of those guys from Bora.
Who do you make is the biggest omission out of? Well, I mean, unless you've got someone else, but.
Yeah, it has to be Matthew Van der Poel. To see him not on the start list, not give it a go at least, is a massive surprise to me because, like we mentioned, he's won races of similar nature before. Good on him if he feels he doesn't have the legs. So of course give it to someone else. But he would have been a big asset to the Netherlands. He won a stage at Tirreno, which was hilly just last week. So a big surprise to me.
Can I put you on the spot for one question?
Go for it.
I know that you like Bora Hansgrohe. If Peter Sagan was there, what could he have done?
Oh, it's a big question. I think the climbs suit him to an extent because they're not super long. I think he could, if he was on a good day, he could have made it over in the main front group. I don't think he'd have been able to follow any solo attacks. He'd have had to rely on other teams, of course, because his team wouldn't have been super strong. I think if he was on a good day, he would have been able to survive in the peloton and go for it in the sprint, potentially alongside Michael Matthews, because I think Sagan did show some decent climbing legs at the Tour. There were a few stages where obviously he didn't get the green jersey in the end, but Bora paced super hard and he was comfortable in those groups, much better than the other pure sprinters. I think he'd have stood a fair chance of being there in the final. What do you think?
I couldn't agree more. Peter Sagan, before him being out of the start list, Peter Sagan was one of the riders I had in my top 5. I don't know at which place, but I knew he was going to be here. And I mean, it's weird. Well, not weird, but it's going to feel weird not having World Championships without Peter Sagan. We're not going to see the Slovakian kid at the front like we do every year with that one rider. Yeah, it's a shame that some riders aren't coming here, but I mean, it was expected for some. Peter Sagan, I actually expected him to be here.
Yeah, it is a surprise. Of course, he's preparing for the Giro, but we have a lot of riders, I think, going to the Giro that are also riding the World Champs. How many stages is Sagan going to win at the Giro?
Ooh, I mean, I haven't seen, you're really putting me on the spot here. I don't know. I mean, he's going to win at least one because he's never been on the Giro, so he's going to win a stage, so that he can win a stage on the 3 Grand Tours. I'm gonna go ahead and say he's going to win twice.
I think he'll win 3. I think he'll win at least 3. I think we'll see an absolute beast in Peter Sagan at the Giro. Okay, then. So we've mentioned all the riders I think that we consider to have a chance. If a rider wins that we haven't mentioned, I'll be shocked. But anyhow, we're going to make a prediction now. Let's see how wrong we are and potentially how right we are. Who do you think is going to win and be on the podium in Imola?
I mean, I've got first and third. I don't have second yet. It's so tough. It's so tough because there's a lot of riders can win. That's the thing. It's not like you've got 5 or 6 riders able to win. Like you've got plenty of riders depending on how the race is like planned. But I'm gonna go. God, it's gonna be so wrong. Right, in third place, I've got Michael Matthews. He will be joined on the podium by a Slovenian rider in the name of Luka Mesgec. And they will be behind Mark Hershey, who will win in solo by 10 seconds.
Wow. That is bold. Mesgec on the podium. I like that a lot.
Yeah, go on.
So, for me, I think we're going to see 2 riders go clear in the final.
Okay.
And those riders will be Jakob Fuglsang, and the other will be Tom Pidcock of Team GB. And I have Fuglsang beating Pidcock in the final, and I then have Michael Matthews picking up 3rd place in the sprint. I think the Pidcock prediction could be a bit bold compared to the Fuglsang and Matthews prediction, but more than anything, I'd like to see him do well, of course, being British, but also I think we really could see Pidcock kind of announce himself as one of and show the world really why Ineos have signed him, because the parkour suit him, and I'd love to see him go well. But I think Fuglsang is going to go clear in the final on that final climb, drop the sprinters like Mesgec and Matthews, and I think Matthews will pick up the bronze medal from the group behind.
I mean, to say that it's a bit bold is it's an understatement. Wow. I wasn't prepared for that. When you said you had 2 riders going clear, I was like, alright, so Fuglsang and let's say Van Aert. Thomas Pidcock on the podium. Wow. And I'm the bold one with Mesgec. Funny to see we both have Michael Matthews in 3rd place. Yeah. So he's I think a lot of people are having him on the podium. I didn't see a lot of them having him in 1st place, but a lot of them on the podium. But I mean, we with what happened on the Tour de France, with all the surprises we've had, I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see Thomas Pidcock on the podium. I won't have anyone from the Netherlands in the top 10. I don't think we'll have any Belgians in the top 10. And that's,
Do you really?
yeah, that's my other bold prediction. I don't think we'll see Wout van Aert in the top 10. All right, sure, we'll maybe have a Nazen in 9th, but they're going to underperform as per usual.
I think that's the boldest of the lot. We've had Mezgec second and Pidcock second. I think Belgium no top 10 is the boldest prediction that we've had. So I'll give you that one. We'll see. Anyhow, it's gonna be a fun one because there are so many riders in with a chance. I don't know how it's gonna go in complete honesty, but I think Fuglsang has a great chance on the parcours and attacking away on that final hill. Okay then, so that is our preview of the World Championships road race. Yeah, like I said, for sure, it's going to be a super interesting race. I really love these parcours in Imola with the race circuit included as well. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to our predictions. Blackwar, anything else you'd like to say?
Just enjoy the race, and we'll see you very soon, probably on Monday.
Cheers, guys.